Hey guys, Brett Weiss here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Going to be talking about a fun topic today, the illustrious world of retro gaming books, in particular the old mass market paperbacks, what some people call pocketbooks, although I wouldn't recommend putting this in your back pocket because you might sit on them. And some of these are collectible and a little valuable. You know, none of them are worth a ton of money, but they're really neat and I love the covers. I love collecting. So I'm going to show you my entire collection of mass market paperbacks that are video game related. Later, another video, I will show you like some of the trade paperbacks, the oversized books, the hardcovers, the more modern books. But today I'm staying focused on the mass market sized paperbacks. So let's go. I'm just going to show you some highlights. This top left one here, Nintendo Adventure Books featuring the Super Mario Brothers. Now that book, if you had 2 cans of Pringles, if you bought those, you could, I believe you sent off for it in the mail, and you can get that when you're a kid. That's always exciting. Most of these books I just bought at used bookstores. I've been collecting these for years, so usually just paid $1 or $2 a piece for them. Some of them I got at shows and paid a little more, but not many. But I've been collecting them for, gosh, since the 80s. So let's go through Worlds of Power. That was a very popular book series, although hard to find today. And, you know, you might get, they might be worth around $15 a piece or so. I've seen them for 10, I've seen them for 20. Including Ninja Gaiden, the very popular hack and slash game. I love that one. The infamous Castlevania 2. Some people love it, some people not so much. If you like Metroidvania, you'll definitely love that. The cult classic Blaster Master and Metal Gear, the very influential stealth game. And those are novels. I admit I haven't read them, but I love the covers. They look great on the shelf and I like going through them. I've read a lot of these tips and tricks books because well, for one, they've been helpful for, you know, some of the older games, and plus I reference them in my books. I've quoted them in some of my own gaming books that I've written. So let's go to this one by Walter Lowe Jr., the Playboy Guide to Rating the Games. You probably won't find any nudity in there unless you're talking about, you know, Cubert or Pac-Man or something. But Playboy used to be a very distinguished company that would publish all kinds of books, including retro, well, at the time, current pop culture books. And so also, let's look at a lot of tips and tricks books. There's novels. I got all kinds of stuff here. So Ken Houston, he was, you may know him for being famous for gambling. He was an excellent blackjack and poker player. He actually got in some trouble from some casinos for, you know, counting cards, and that's considered cheating in the casino worlds. Also an expert video game player. Now, most of these books are pretty thin, but if you'll notice this one is very thick. So massive book there. Most of these are in nice condition, but I've read that one to pieces and referenced it many times, and I've had it for a very long time. Now, in the early 80s, obviously Pac-Mania was everywhere. There was Pac-Man merchandise all over the place. Bed sheets, lunch boxes, just all kinds of crazy stuff. Pencil toppers, games, you know, like puzzles, board games, all kinds of stuff, and probably more than 20 Mastering Pac-Man books where everybody wanted to know the patterns in Pac-Man to, you know, achieve a perfect score, or at least better their own score, and some other tips and tricks. There was even a Pac-Man humor book, at least one. Now, Blips, that was written by Jovial Bob Stein. Some of you will know him as R.L. Stein, the author and ghost author in some cases, a lot of cases actually, of the popular Goosebumps books. Video games, puzzles, and quizzes. Now, if you were a kid back in the day and your parents kicked you off your video game, said enough screen time, maybe you would want to, you know, cool, screenshots there. Play with this book and, you know, answer questions, word searches, and all that kind of stuff. Pretty neat. Lots of more tips and tricks books. Now, some of these books only have like diagrams in them. Some of them have photos, a lot of text. See their diagrams. Fairly cheaply produced, not a lot of photography in some of these. This one, on the other hand, does have some color. Pretty neat. I just love the covers of these things. And like I said, I do reference them from time to time because there is information in here that you're not necessarily going to find on the web. And this one has some actual, you know, fairly well-known gamers, secrets of the video game superstars that share their tips and tricks. Player Strategy Guide to the Atari VCS, which, as many of you know, was the original name of the Atari 2600. That includes Activision, Games by Apollo, so you got some third-party action there. Just love these books. The covers are so cool. And this is actually a little video game history book. There wasn't really a legitimate video game history book till Leonard Herman published Phoenix back in the mid-90s. But Video Games by Daniel Cohen is, a video game history book, just a much smaller, not really considered a comprehensive history, but pretty neat to have. Now this next row of books, How to Win at Nintendo Games. There's quite a few of these in the series, and these were very popular back in the day, and you can still find these pretty easily now. Of all these books, these turn up the most from what I've seen, anecdotally at least, and you can find them for as little as $3, $4, $5 at some gaming conventions. And you might even run across them at half-price bookstores or some other used bookstores. I don't typically buy newer video game books like this, like novels and such, but I saw this one based on the arcade classic Defender, that great side-scrolling shooter, so I had to pick it up. I think I got it for $1 at some gaming con. I really like these two a lot. These are very hard to find, and they cover the era of gaming before the Atari 2600, back to the Fairchild Channel F, which came out in '76, before the Atari 2600. And it covers the Pong clones, the Pong itself, Atari Pong, and just you've got diagrams and photos in this one. And pretty cool. Tactics, tips, technical aspects of games. And this one, you gotta love that cover with, very excited that she, apparently, I don't know who won here, but they both seem pretty happy. Oops. Sorry about that. And let's see here. Yeah, I got some pictures in there, really vintage. Got some technical info there as well. Just gotta love these old school systems. Very neat look at these. If you don't, if you're not able to run across the systems themselves, at least you can have pictures and information about them in these books, because these are some very rare consoles. More tips and tricks, and we get a little more modern here with Sega, Nintendo, Genesis, and the Game Gear, the Super NES. Very nice. Now, I've got so many of these that I couldn't even fit them on a single table. Got a card table up here, so I put a little fold-up table here on the side. Now, I really like these series because I like the stylized covers and that they're in sync here. They're really neat. I think I'm missing one or two of these. You might mention in the comments which ones I'm missing. Same way with the Worlds of Power books. I'm missing some of those. You guys might let me know which ones I'm missing. I could research it, but what fun would that be? Leave in the comments which ones I'm missing. Same with this series. And this is an interesting book, Game Over by Joseph Locke. Now, I just stumbled across this while I was shopping in the horror section at a used bookstore. I'm a big horror fan too. Stephen King, Robert Bloch, D.N.R. Kuntz, and all that kind of stuff. And this novel, based in old arcade, I actually read some of this. It was pretty neat. I don't think I ever actually finished, but what I read was pretty cool. I should go back to it at some point. The Tron novelization. That is a must-have if you're a retro gaming fan who loves these old books. And this one actually has photos from the film, which is pretty neat. Gotta love that. Paperback books back in the day. Some of them had, some of the nonfiction books or the novels or whatever had an interior section with photos. Some of them didn't. Kind of a random entry here about biography on Steve Wozniak, the of Apple computer fame, but it kind of fits into the collection. The Kid's Guide to Home Computers. My wife got me this. She was just at a bookstore and thought it looked cool and thought I would like it, so she picked it up. It's got consoles and computers in here, and gives you a lot of history and just to kind of see what the mindset at the time was. Just regarding the industry. It sort of captures the zeitgeist of what was going on with kids and computers. Last Starfighter novelization. I love that movie. Tron and the Last Starfighter, probably my two favorite video game movies of all time, with maybe Wreck-It Ralph. Daryl is kind of an interesting film, loosely gaming related, and less common than Last Starfighter or War Games, as you can see here, but it is pretty neat. If you can find that movie, I would recommend checking it out. It's not great, but it is pretty neat and does have a video game tie-in. Now, one thing that's cool about these books, there are a lot of reviews, and in these books, some of them, some of the even tips and tricks books have, some critiques as well. Just about the graphics, the gameplay, and that kind of thing. and it's really neat to see what these critics thought of these games back at the time. And I have referenced these books for some of my books of my own, like my 100 Greatest book down here. I have quoted some of these books in that. And the SNES Omnibus books, I've quoted some old sources in those books as well. So if you like these old books, you might check out some of my books that I've written. Anyway, you can find me online at brettweisswords.com to find my books and whatnot. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed this overview of retro gaming books, more particularly vintage video game books. And like I said, I will do a video on some of my other books too. I've got some older trade paperbacks, some of the larger ones. I've got some hardcovers and that kind of thing. I will show you those in another video. If you want to put in the comments, do you still read books about video games? Do you enjoy doing that, or do you just get all your information online? All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and I appreciate it, man. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.